Welcome to She is Resilient, a podcast for women on their healing journeys who are ready to start living their most authentic and empowered lives outside of survival mode. I'm your host, Tatiana, trauma and somatic therapist, as well as a holistic coach, and I'm on a mission to help more women heal their nervous systems. Each week, me and my guests are going to get real and vulnerable about the experiences that led us to becoming the empowered and resilient women we are today. You'll leave this podcast with the skills, knowledge, and inspiration to start creating the life you deserve. Because if another woman can do it, so can you. Welcome to another episode of She is Resilient. I have missed you so much, and I am truly sorry for making you wait 3 weeks for a new episode. It's been a little wild on my end, and I just haven't had the time or truly the energy to sit down and record a new podcast. So here we are with a new episode, and we are talking about my biggest takeaways from the Somatic Experiencing training that I did a couple of weeks ago now. And I'll tell you this. It has nothing to do with somatic experiencing. But I do want to talk to you about somatic experiencing because it's important to have some context around it to get the full picture. So if you're new here and this is the first episode you're listening to, I'm a somatic experiencing practitioner at the advanced level. So there's beginning 1, 2, and 3. There's intermediate 1, 2, and 3. And there's advanced 1 and 2. So I've completed all of my beginning trainings, all of my intermediate trainings, and now I've completed my first advanced training, and now I just have one more advanced training left. So, what is somatic experiencing? Somatic experiencing is a body-oriented approach to healing trauma and rewiring the nervous system. And we do this through tracking the nervous system for physiological cues of fight, flight, or freeze responses, guiding the nervous system through these survival states and releasing traumatic energy that's been stored in your body. So one of the coolest things about somatic experiencing is that you don't have to talk about your trauma or remember your trauma to heal from it, because we're working directly with your nervous system and not with specific traumatic events. So in order to become a certified somatic experiencing practitioner, you need to complete the training that is a minimum of 3 years. At the time that I'm recording this episode, it's April 2024, and I'm in my 4th year, and like I said, I have one more training to complete, not including my personal sessions and consultation hours that are required to become officially certified. So it's been a long process and journey to become a somatic experiencing practitioner, but it's been one of the things that I feel most proud of because it has truly been life-changing for both me and the women that I work with. So that's somatic experiencing in a nutshell. So like I said, a couple of weeks ago, I attended the Somatic Experiencing Advanced 1 training in Boston, and it was a lot, to say the least. The training was 6 days, an 11-hour day for me because I drove an hour there and an hour back. And the training is structured where the morning is focused on learning. So we have a lecture and we're just learning new information. After that, we watch a live demo with the trainer who does a live somatic experiencing session with a student to utilize the tools and information that we learned from the lecture. Then we go to lunch and we come back and we're broken up into small groups. We stay in these small groups for the 6 days of training, and we practice being the practitioner for the 6 days, but we're also the client for 6 days. So just imagine going to therapy for 6 days in a row, but also being the therapist or practitioner for 6 days in a row. That's a lot. And so I'm sure you can imagine that it was just both exhausting and activating because when we're clients, we're working on things that we're still struggling with. So when we choose what we're working on as clients, we have to stick with the same topic for the 6 days of training. What I was working on was my sense of belonging. specifically in settings like the one I was in at the training, where I was one of two Hispanic people and one of 5 or 6 minorities. When I was sharing this with my small group, I shared that I tend to get a lot of anxiety and I struggle to connect with others. And a lot of it comes from struggling with my cultural identity because I was born in the United States, but I don't quite feel American enough. I'm half Colombian and I'm half Guatemalan, but I don't feel Colombian enough. And I also don't feel Guatemalan enough. So, where do I fit in? Who are my people? And to add to that, I'm a white passing Latina, which means I'm Latina, but a lot of people would have no clue that I am because of my light skin and because I don't look like the stereotypical Hispanic person, whatever that might look like. And also, I have a lot of insecurities around language. I speak Spanish, but I feel embarrassed speaking Spanish because of my American accent. Or I speak English, but I don't feel smart enough like someone whose primary language is English or only language is English. And so it's layers upon layers when it comes to culture and ethnicity, and all of this manifests in anxiety when I'm in these groups where I'm the only Latina or one of two. Luckily, in my small group, I had a fellow Latina who was truly amazing and supportive, and honestly, I kind of saw her as a bit of a mentor, considering she has more experience in attending in person trainings and events where she's the only Latina. She's older than me, and honestly, I don't know what I would have done if she wasn't there. So, fast forward to day 3 of the Somatic Experiencing training, where we were in our practice sessions, and my practitioner was a white male, and it didn't go as well as maybe one would hope, especially when we're all in the mental health field. Some things were said, and it became a larger issue than it truly needed to be. And after day 3, I really felt confused. I felt dismissed. I felt angry. And I'm not going to share the details of what happened because I don't want to shame anyone on this podcast or episode. And I want to be respectful of everyone's experience. And I also want to be respectful of Somatic Experiencing International. So, at the end of the day, I think this experience was a good learning opportunity for everyone, and nobody's perfect, and we all have room for growth. But at the same time, it didn't feel good for me as the client. So, after all of this, on the very last day of the training, we shared what, if anything, has shifted inside of us. And here's what I shared with my group. I said, I came into this training feeling very anxious and very activated and not knowing where I fit in. My anxiety then turned into anger, and now my anger has turned into readiness to take action. And the action that I want to take is spreading more awareness about somatic experiencing and telling more Latinos about the work that I do, specifically those who are therapists, coaches, or body workers, so that we can have more people like us, Latinos, who can fill up those training rooms and continue to serve the Latino community. So if you're a therapist, coach, or body worker and you're interested in getting trained in somatic experiencing, I would love for you to send me a message so that we can talk about how you can get trained, because the world needs more somatic experiencing practitioners, but specifically more somatic experiencing practitioners of color. So, this training has truly made me realize a lot about myself in terms of my own cultural journey. And I think that's really the whole purpose of the somatic experiencing training It's not about the lecture, it's not about the demo, it's not about the cognitive piece, what we're learning. It's really about shifting our own nervous systems and growing as humans to better support other humans. So that's one takeaway from the training. Another takeaway is that naming and vocalizing what was happening for me internally really helped me get the support that I needed from others. So, historically, in other trainings, like the beginning and intermediate trainings that I attended, I experienced this significant sense of anxiety. And I also had no clue what was contributing to it. Of course, the somatic experiencing training itself is activating, but I think it was more than just activating. It was really anxiety provoking and overwhelming for me in the past. But after doing my own healing, I've realized that being in rooms where I am the only Latina is a huge factor. And I was able to vocalize that not just in my small group, but with some of the other somatic experiencing assistants in the training. And by vocalizing it to them, I was able to receive an enormous amount of support where I felt so seen and understood, even though these assistants weren't Hispanic. And I feel so grateful to have had that experience and opportunity, because I don't think I was consciously looking for support from these assistants, but it made an entire difference. And I think vocalizing it was really important, not just naming it, because we can name things, but if we're not vocalizing it, we can't really receive that support that we may not know we even needed, like I did. And the last takeaway from the training that I want to share with you is that you can communicate perfectly with others. You can use all of the right I statements and be as mindful as possible, but people will only hear you at the level of their nervous system, and you cannot control how others receive what you say. So, like always, thank you so much for listening. I would love for you to share with me your thoughts and reflections, or share this episode onto your social media if you resonated with it, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you absolutely loved this episode, I would so appreciate it if you subscribed and left a review on Apple Podcast, or take a screenshot and share this episode on social media. Don't forget to tag me at tatiana.holistic.coach. The more nervous systems we reach, the more generational cycles we break, and the more we contribute to a kinder and safer world. And if you're looking for somatic healing services, send me a DM and I'd love to chat on how I can support you. I'll see you in the next episode.